Hello, and welcome to On the Turf, hosted by three guys who have never been on the turf. My name's Arjun Ryan.
I'm Shribam Khanda.
I'm Rohan Patel.
Been a couple weeks, but we're all three back together. We're approaching week 10. The season's going by extremely quickly at this point. I can't believe it's already week 10, more than halfway through the season. And we can just get right into it. You know, we had a really good week 9 in terms of the slate of games. We had Corey and AJ on the show last week to talk about the Giants.
Can't imagine they're too happy right now.
Yep,
Corey, AJ, if you're listening, I hope you enjoyed your Daniel Jones experience, because I think it's over.
Yeah, Caleb Williams, come on down. We'll be a New York Giant this time next April. But, you know, the Giants are not doing well, but we had the Bengals win. The Dolphins lost in Germany. We had the Cowboys and Eagles, and probably one of the best games of the week, if not the best. But in week 10, we have not as many good marquee matchups, but still probably a lot of good games. But before we talk about the two matchups we want to highlight and our midseason playoff predictions that we're really excited to talk about, Rohan, Arizona Cardinals, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Found that something to be excited about. Kyler Murray is coming back.
I haven't been more excited for an Arizona Cardinals game since
2 years ago? 2 years ago, maybe?
Maybe our last playoff game, but even then it was like a sense of doom that I felt in that wildcard game 2 years ago. No, I mean, I've never been more excited to be 1-8. You know, like this feels like we're starting over again. The record doesn't matter. We're just here to have fun. We're just here to see Kyler ball out. I mean, I don't know. I think what I said about Kyler and how I view him as like a very top tier quarterback, maybe not in the elite conversation just yet, but at least a very great quarterback. I think that's shown very clearly over the course of this year. I mean, you put a quarterback who's a below-average quarterback like Josh Dobbs in, and he doesn't get stuff done in this offense. The offense looked like promising at points, but it clearly didn't have a difference maker, and that's what Kyler Murray is going to be. I mean, the fact that there was even reports that there were people saying that we should move on from Kyler, I thought was already quite egregious. I despise any member of our fan base that said we should move on from Kyler. If you said that, you're not a true Cardinals fan. You ride or die with the quarterback. You ride or die with the number one pick. Kyler has shown nothing to say that he's not worthy of all the hype, of all the trust that we put in him. So I'm glad that we finally got him back. I'm glad we've gone off this Caleb Williams bullshit. We don't need him. He looks terrible anyways.
Not to interrupt you, but he has not played it down yet. We're talking about he's already lighting up all the stat sheets. No,
here's the thing.
Let me give you a hypothetical scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Kyler comes in, he gets you maybe 1-2 more wins, right? I mean, you guys still got to play the Niners, the Seahawks, the Rams again, right?
Yeah.
Kyler gets a couple wins. You know, he shows some flashes as he usually does, but he's not amazing, right? Mm-hmm. He's not let's say first half of 2021 Kyler. Are you still in on him?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look at the team he has around him. He has a bad offensive line, which, God, I don't know why we can never fix that issue. We have, Connor might be back next week, but we don't have a truly electric running game. His wide receiver one is, Marquise Brown isn't bad, but it's not like he has, the most, the best sample of weapons that he has, and it's definitely not the best he's had in his career. So I'm not looking for him to do anything groundbreaking. I'm looking for him to just be an upgrade, and for him to, we've been in a lot of close games this year. I'm looking for him to be that factor to hopefully turn some of those one-score losses into wins. And I think he can do that, and I hope we don't win too much. As Donald Trump once said, I don't want to be winning too much. I don't want to get tired of winning because I want Marvin Harrison Jr., the number 2 pick in the drafts. So there's a fine line to draw here, but truly, unless Kyler Murray comes out and is throwing 5 picks per game, I see no reason why we don't trust him. I think he's still our franchise quarterback. I think next year, if we have a good draft, maybe make a couple good signings, we could be in to make a run next year. But I'm looking forward to this game. Atlanta's not going to know what's hit him, and I think we can. I'm going to call it right here. I think we win this game against Atlanta.
I'm picking the Cardinals this week.
Yeah, I think putting Kyler Murray into this lineup energizes everything so much more, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Shree, any quick thoughts on Kyler coming back?
Other than I tried to send Camille a trade for fantasy football, nothing much. Because I low-key need a quarterback in fantasy football. I'm struggling with Jordan Love and Jared Goff. But actually, Jared Goff's been all right, but he had a bye week. But yeah, the Cardinals have never been worthy of talking about on this podcast. and
We-
I don't
we
think
were-
they'll ever be for the next
we were,
few
like,
years.
one of the best teams
But-
2 years ago when we had this podcast.
But yeah,
Yeah, you were
I'm
fun to
sure
talk about 2 years ago. We saw the collapse happen in real time.
yeah,
It
that was
great.
actually really hard.
Yeah. Actually, I wish we could talk about them more just to make fun of them, but I guess like they're so bad.
There's
that
not
we
really
don't
much to
even
make
have
fun
to
of. They're
bring
just
up
kind of
their
bad.
name
Yeah, I knew we were gonna be
It's
bad.
okay.
I'm not even gonna act like we're not bad.
Yeah, but Kyler's back, so that's exciting.
And you know what's even more exciting is I'm playing Rohan in fantasy this week in our Georgetown Fantasy League, and guess who my starting quarterback is? Kyler Murray. So
you know
either
what?
way, if Rohan wins, I still win too.
It doesn't matter because
Yeah.
truly, I don't care if I lose in fantasy this week. If Kyler's putting up 30 fantasy points, that means we won the game. That means Kyler is back. I can't wait for him to beat all this slander that you guys have thrown upon him, that so many people have thrown upon him, and prove that he's a franchise quarterback.
But let's dive into the rest of Week 10 with matchups that teams actually care about, or people actually care about.
People care. The city of Phoenix cares about Kyler Murray.
Yeah, but let's move to the AFC North, the best division in football, as I predicted. And it really sucks to be a fan of a team in that division. But the two teams I hate the most in this division are facing off this week. The Cleveland Browns are going to Baltimore to face off against the Red Hot Ravens. If you've seen our power rankings and our Instagram, the Ravens are in all of our top 2. For me, they're not 2. I think the Ravens are far and away right now the best team in the league. The Browns have the best defense in the league, although the Ravens are giving them a run for their money in the past couple of weeks. Lamar played this team, in the middle of the season, or 4 weeks ago or something like that, and Lamar put up like 140 passer rating, absolutely went off. But Baltimore's favored by 6. What do you guys think of this game, Rohan? You're a big Baltimore guy this season. You've been there from the beginning to give you all your credit.
Thank you.
The season's not over yet, but what do you think about the Browns
man.
and the Ravens this week?
First of all, we're going to talk about the Ravens more later, but the Ravens look really good. Ravens look really, really good. All facets of the game are hitting. Lamar is playing just efficient football. He didn't even really have a great game last week against Seattle, but he didn't have to. With the way the ground game was working, with the way that he was. He didn't throw a pick. I don't know if he didn't have any completions either, but he didn't really have to do much. But this game is going to be, I think, a real defensive showdown. These are the number 1 and 2 defenses in the league in terms of points allowed, in terms of yards per play. These are 2 of the top teams in the league, top 2 teams in sacks as well. So these are 2 defenses that do just about everything right. Quite simply, it does come down to the offense at the end of the day, And one of these teams has a near elite offense, I think. I'm not going to call them elite just yet. But they have a near elite offense, and the other one, quite simply, does not. I think Lamar is obviously far and away a better quarterback, never mind a better person than Deshaun Watson. And I think he'll have a lot more success than Deshaun does against this Ravens defense. The Browns are scrappy. They weren't real scrappy against us. The Cardinals last week, they shut us out. But I think that in a low-scoring game, I trust the Ravens to do a little bit more on the ground. I trust Lamar to make more plays, quite single-handedly than I trust Deshaun Watson to do. So I'll pick the Ravens here. Relatively low-scoring. I'll say 17 to 10.
Classic AFC North.
Classic.
Yeah, pretty much the same feelings here. I think it's totally up to the offenses on both teams. Last time the Browns played the Ravens, Deshaun Watson wasn't obviously playing. I think it was DTR, and I think it showed how good of a Ravens defense it can be. 3 picks, 3 turnovers. I don't think Deshaun Watson genuinely, even though DTR had a terrible game, I don't think it is that much of an upgrade at the quarterback position. And I think just having two touchdowns and shutting out the Cardinals is by no means a litmus test for probably one of the best teams in the NFL and the Baltimore Ravens. There's a reason why they're favored by 6, and it's at home. The Ravens have been on a tear, and just because you beat the Cardinals does not mean that you can beat the Ravens. So I'm going to take the Ravens pretty comfortably here, and I'll honestly say a 24-10 finish for the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it comes down to the quarterback play. Both these defenses are really good. I expect the Browns' defense to give the Ravens' offense fits, especially early. The Ravens, especially against when they've played these NFC teams, the Lions and Seahawks, the past couple weeks, they've gone out to really hot starts, and from there they've been able to just run the ball and stuff like that. I expect the Browns' defense to stop that a little bit, keep this close going to the fourth. But, a fourth quarter, Deshaun Watson has looked better. He has still not looked great. I'm going to trust Lamar. If both these teams could lose, I'd love it, but the Ravens have at least a likable quarterback.
So you've really come around to Lamar, haven't you?
He's a good quarterback. He's elite.
He's elite. Elite.
24-17 Ravens. But if there's any option, please make these two teams tie or something like that. That would be great. But next one, both these teams are on bye last week. Both these teams are in both of our top 10s, or all of our top 10s. The 49ers, off a 3-game losing streak, are heading to Jacksonville to face off against the Jaguars, who are on the longest winning streak in the NFL. Kind of tale of two teams different right here. We've talked about the Niners a lot. There's not much more we can say. Brock Purdy has struggled over the past couple weeks. There's no escaping that. They missed a field goal against Cleveland. They had a chance against the Vikings. They didn't really have a chance against Cincinnati. Meanwhile, the Jaguars have eked by in every single game, but they are winning. Trevor Lawrence is playing pretty good. They're just finding ways to win. But I expect the Niners to get back on track here. I think the bye week will be good for them. I think the addition of Chase Young is going to make an immediate impact with them. Him and Nick Bosa, this defense has not been as good as last year. I don't expect it will reach that without DeMeco Ryans, but they still have a ton of talent. The Jaguars are a good team, and they will be a good team throughout the entire season. But I think the Niners are the better team, and will show that this week. So I expect the Niners to win. I'll say 27-24. Brock Purdy doesn't have to do anything in the fourth quarter because this team will be up ahead, and I think that is the recipe for them.
Yeah, I'm going to back you here. I'm also going to, not to hate unnecessarily, but I'm also going to take a jab at the Jaguars. I really think that they're a little bit overrated, quite frankly. I saw a comment on our Instagram post from, I don't know who Luca is, but Luca, I don't know why I think the Jags are a top 5 team, quite frankly.
They're close. They're close.
I don't think they're particularly close. I'm looking at this win streak, right? You got wins against the Falcons, who's a team that they should have beat, irregardless. You got a win against the Bills, which I think I'm not putting as much stock into anymore. The Bills are a good team; they're not great. Then you beat the Colts without AR. You beat the Saints, and you beat the Steelers. And in none of those games have I been particularly impressed with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is not having this leap that we thought we were going to see. I think he's playing okay. He's not a bad quarterback by any means.
PFF is grading him really well. I think there's been a lot of drops and bad receiver play, I'll say.
Maybe it's not Trevor Lawrence and maybe it's the offense in general, but I'm looking at his stats. He's not popping off the screen in terms of touchdowns, in terms of efficiency or completion percentage, in terms of yardage, in terms of QBR. He's playing like a middle tier quarterback. I don't think he is. I think he makes winning plays, but this offense has been very much carried, I think, by Travis Etienne. This team has been very much carried by their defense generally. I think that changes. I think the Niners are going to be mad. I think the Niners defense is going to be the one that wins it for them here. I think they're going to shut down Etienne. They have a really good run defense, and they're going to put pressure on with their new addition, Chase Young. I think that their defense forces Trevor Lawrence to have a pretty bad game. Maybe not bad game, but mediocre game at least. And their offense, hopefully with their weapons back, can put up enough points on the board. I'll call it another low-scoring game, though. These two teams have really good defenses. I'll say it's 20-17 Niners win.
Yeah, I think this game is interesting. Brock Purdy, I think over the last 3 games, he's thrown 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So the turnover rate hasn't been amazing or anything. And from Jacksonville's perspective, I think that Trevor Lawrence is playing well. He had a hurt knee against the Saints, and we saw we still saw them getting it down the field. He made very safe decisions. His decision making, I don't think the turnovers is really an issue for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I really think, just like Rohan said, the Jacksonville offense is really run through their offensive line and through that run game. And the one thing that you think about when you think about the 49ers is an amazing run defense and an amazing pass rush. So just because of that, I think that even if Brock Purdy does have a slump just like he's going through right now, and even if he continues that, I really don't think it'll be that big of an issue because of just how terrorizing this 49ers defense can be. So I'm going to take the 49ers as well, and I'm going to actually think of it as a low-scoring game. I'm going to say something like 17-14 49ers.
Yeah, I think the key for the Niners is they have to get out to a hot start here because Brock Purdy, when the onus has been on him, we've seen the past couple of weeks he's been forcing it a little bit.
Yeah, and I will say, to go back to the Jaguars team just really briefly, the defense has been good. But, this is also a defense that relatively put up, I'd say, a weak performance against teams like the Saints, against teams like the Colts, against teams like the Texans. I think if the Niners get out to a fast start, I trust their defense to pull away with this.
But now let's get to the fun part. This is something I look forward to every year, our midseason playoff predictions. We did midseason awards last week, which is a lot of fun. But playoff predictions, I think this is going to be really interesting because right now, and we'll start out with the AFC. In the AFC, the entire AFC North is currently in the playoffs. And
That's insane.
I don't know. We'll see if any of
Absolutely
us
insane.
we'll go through it how we did our preseason playoff predictions. We'll run through by number, by seed in the conference and see what we have. So let's just kick it off. With the number 1 seed, I unfortunately have the Baltimore Ravens. I think it's going to be very close between them and the Chiefs. The Chiefs have a very tough schedule coming up, and I expect them to drop a couple. I think the Ravens are going to keep it moving. We'll see, because I think if it comes down to the Ravens and the Chiefs in Week 18, the Ravens are facing the Steelers at home. I think the Ravens are going to win that if they play their starters, unfortunately. It's giving shades of 2019 again, so I can't wait to see the Ravens lose in the divisional round. They are going to get the 1 seed.
They won't.
I think they're right now. I would say they're going to get the 1 seed.
You should consider not having so much hate in your heart. But I agree.
Go ahead.
Ravens at 1. I think their schedule's no joke either down the stretch. I mean, every team except maybe one, the Rams, I think, are contenders for the playoffs. They got the Browns, Bengals, Chargers, Jags, Niners, Dolphins, Steelers.
Wow.
A lot of divisional games that are always a toss-up in the AFC North. A lot of games against contenders. I mean, this is where I think we see what the Ravens truly are made of. But these last 3 weeks, we've seen what they are made of a little bit. I mean, you blow out the Lions, you blow out the Seahawks in games that were never in question. That tells a lot about this team. If this rushing offense keeps it the way it's going and lets Lamar sort of play just really just be able to manage the game, that's just like such an elite luxury to have. And then when they do need Lamar to play, I think that he's more than capable of doing that. Throw in top 2 defense on top of that, and I think you have a recipe for success.
So I think I'm the only one that took the Chiefs here. I think for me, really, the only reason why I feel like I'm more confident in the Chiefs than ever before is particularly just because of how strong that defense is. When you think of divisional matchups in terms of the AFC North, like that is definitely a toss-up. But divisional matchups for the Chiefs is really not a toss-up at all. Like they are very I think Patrick Mahomes is like 14-1 against the Broncos. Like they've always like
the loss coming 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but then, the one was 2 weeks ago. But the point is, I think that I still think the Ravens' schedule is a lot harder. And not a lot harder, but I still think it is like as competitive as the Chiefs is. Primarily because I think the Ravens honestly can take a loss to either the Bengals or the Browns. Or not this week, but I just think that it's a lot more competitive than people think. And I think that the Chiefs just have such a good defense this year. And we haven't seen a good year from Patrick Mahomes. It's probably a pretty big down year. And I think he's like he's tied for 3rd for like the most interceptions in the league. But I think if the Chiefs just keep going at it, then they'll get the 1 seed.
Yeah, they have a big game coming up this week not this week, but
after the bye.
After the bye week.
Super Bowl rematch
against the Eagles. Again, really good defense, which I agree with. I mean, I'll just move into my 2 actually now that I think about it.
I have them at 2 as well.
I mean, I think me and Arjun both have them at 2. I mean, I would put them at 1 if they didn't lose that game to the Broncos, just because I think that them and the Ravens will probably have a similar similar record down the stretch. But I mean, yeah, this team is going to be scary in the playoffs. I mean, when you have a defense playing like this, what's become really an elite secondary led by Trent McDuffie has been just an insane revelation for this team. I mean, if you would have told me like at the beginning of the year that this was the team that would hold the Dolphins to 14 points, I would have thought that was insane. But this defense is insanely good, and it's giving Patrick Mahomes and this offense the time to develop. How much developing is left? I don't know.
Yeah, that's my one thing. I mean, I have the Chiefs at 2 as well. That's the main thing. I think this defense is absolutely elite. Like top 5 defense at this point. I think it's been confirmed.
Yeah.
But the offense to me, like, look, we love Travis Kelce, right? Like we Taylor Swift, all that. It's great. But I think Travis Kelce has lost a little bit of a step. Like, he's old. Like, he's 34 at this point, and that's to be expected. I don't think he's as much of a downfield threat as he used to be. And the problem is that this reminds me, I hate to say it, I mean, the Chiefs obviously are going to get to the playoffs and have a fairly high seed, if not the 1 seed. But this low-key reminds me of those, like, late Tom Brady Patriots teams. In the way that, like, you're playing with maybe, like, he had Gronk. He doesn't even have, like, an Edelman. You know what I mean? Like, these receivers would be wide receiver 3s on most teams, if not wide receiver 4s.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know. Once you get to the playoffs in the AFC, that's obviously down the road, if this Chiefs team can actually compete with, the Ravens. Even, they beat the Dolphins this past week, but, like, the Bengals, for example. those two teams especially, I think, are going to pose problems when they have a good defense, but they have just much more weapons to work with. Shree, do you have the Ravens at 2?
Yeah, I have the Ravens at 2. It's pretty much for the same reasons you guys said. I just trust the Chiefs more.
Yeah, but I will like if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm slightly ringing the alarm bells. Like
it's Patrick Mahomes.
It's Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day, but I'm looking at the stat line. I mean, he threw to 9 different receivers, which in most cases is good, but the most catches one person got was 3. I mean, there's something to be said about spreading the ball around, but you also want your star player. Kelsey is that, but there needs to be a perimeter threat, and that's not there for them. And it's enough to get them through the regular season, but come playoff time, I'd be worried.
Yeah, I think they're
I mean,
tripling. Yeah, go ahead, Trey.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, we've seen this from the Chiefs before. Like, we've seen slumps from them at the beginning of the season. Like, this could just might as well be just a mid-season slump from them. Like, I think one thing that we've seen like throughout it all is just like how much we've doubted like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' offense. And I do understand that they don't have like another weapon outside of Travis Kelce. It's just like I still think, when you have an elite defense and you have Patrick Mahomes, like even if there aren't any weapons, like there is you just can't bet against him. And I know I don't really have any like quantifications or stats to back it up because Patrick Mahomes is having a down year.
It's just Patrick Mahomes.
But it's Patrick Mahomes, so I'm gonna take the Chiefs as the one, and I have the Ravens as the 2, just for all the reasons you guys said.
So it seems I think we all have the same 3, 4, and 5, just maybe in different orders. So I'll start at number 3. I have the Jaguars. I mean, we already talked about them in the game preview with the Niners. I think this is a very good team. I think they're going to be very balanced. I don't think the division is as much of a slouch as we thought it was going to be. I think the Titans are going to continue to be frisky with Will Levis. I think the Texans are really showing out with C.J. Stroud, who we didn't talk about after just a bonkers performance.
An incredible performance.
Yeah, I mean, he's a top 5 quarterback.
I'd like to formally apologize after only 1 week for not naming him Offensive Rookie of the Year. I did that in the episode last week. Yeah, my bad. It's C.J. Stroud. He's incredible.
But C.J. Stroud is going to keep this division competitive as far as I'm concerned. I think, the thing is the Jaguars have built up a big lead at this point, so I think they're going to be fine. But either way, Jaguars are going to be good. I think they're going to get in. They have a fairly good schedule. This Niners game might be one of the hardest games they have left. But I expect the Jaguars to get in as the 3 seed.
Yeah, for my 3 and 4, I had the Jaguars and the Dolphins. I don't necessarily think that these are elite teams for the AFC. Like you have the Ravens, you have the Bengals, but then you also have the Chiefs. I don't think they can compete with the top level teams, but I think that because they have already built a 2-game lead or maybe like a 1-game lead over their next the people in their division, it'll be competitive. But I just think that because of that lead, and even if they have divisional games, they'll make it to the playoffs. Even if it's not a 10-7 record, I think a 9-8 record is completely it's going to get them into the playoffs.
I have it flipped, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I think the Dolphins will comfortably get the 3 seed.
I can't wait to talk. I've been waiting to talk about the Dolphins.
And I know you can. Yeah. I know you can. I think I'm going to say a lot of the similar things that you're going to say, and I think the Jaguars fall to 4 just by merit of being the best team in their division. The thing with this Dolphins team is they are a team that throughout the year, I think what this Dolphins team has become very clear. Against bad teams, against mid to bad teams, they will not only win, but it won't even be a question that they win. They will unquestionably win those games, and they won't be close, and they won't have you second-guessing them. Against great to elite teams, they will lose. It's a pretty simple formula, I think. I mean, they lost to the Bills back when the Bills, I think, could be classified at that level because of before the defensive injuries. They lose to the Eagles, who we'll get into, but I think best team in the NFL, or maybe second best. And then you lose to the Chiefs. Again, top tier team. Look at the schedule ahead. You got the Jets, the Commanders, the Titans, the Jets again, the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Bills. At this point, only the Cowboys and Ravens I'm going to chalk up as losses. Because of what I think that this Dolphins team wins every single game except those 2, simply because those teams don't have the firepower or the defense to match up with the Dolphins. If you're only losing 2 games, that puts them at 5 losses on the year. The Jaguars are sitting at 2 right now, and I think their schedule is significantly harder. They're going to see the Niners, they're going to see the Bengals, they're going to see the Ravens. Those are 3 really, really tough games. And the Jaguars, as I've said before, haven't really shown me. Trevor Lawrence hasn't had a wow factor for me yet this year. So they could also lose one of these other sneaky games, like say the Titans or the Texans. I'm going to put the Dolphins in at 3. I think they're a better team than the Jaguars. I think they would beat the Jaguars if they got up head-to-head too.
All right, I'd like to stand on my soapbox a little bit about this Dolphins team. This Dolphins team is the most paperist of Tigers I've ever seen. I mean, this is not a physical team. This team is all finesse.
They're not physical, but they're not.
They're all finesse.
They're not a paper tiger.
They are a paper tiger. Look, I don't think if you put them. I mean, I have them at 10 on my power rankings. I'm not entirely
insane.
Convinced if they played Buffalo today. I think Buffalo would win. If I'm being honest.
No, Buffalo would not win. But dude, Buffalo's defense is actually pretty bad right now.
But I mean, I just don't trust this Dolphins team to face off against a team that gets a decent pass rush against them. I mean, the Dolphins against in Frankfurt this past weekend got into consistent 3rd and longs consistently in the first half against the Chiefs. It was 21-0. Now, granted, they were able to get back into that game, but then Tua. I know we love Tua in the show. We love Tua a lot.
Love Tua.
we love Tua a lot, but Tua, he screwed the pooch. If we're being honest here.
Okay, no, that was the center's fault.
He missed like 3. He missed like 3 straight throws. It was 1st and 10. Raheem Mostert had ran like 40 yards, and got them into nearing the red zone, and Tua couldn't do it. I like this Dolphins team, but this Dolphins team is not competitive at all, in my opinion. I think this team is primed to get bounced in the first round. I like a lot of their personnel. I like Mike McDaniel, but maybe this defense gets a little bit better with Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they have been better.
Yeah, they've been a lot better. And here's the thing: I don't disagree with you that they're. In fact, if the way this falls, if they play like I have them.
I think we all have them playing Cincinnati.
The Bengals, or I guess I wouldn't have them playing Cincinnati. I would have them playing. I forget what I put at 6, but. Yeah, I agree. I think they could lose in the first round. I wouldn't be shocked at that. But this is a really good regular season team. This is an incredible regular season team who takes care of business consistently against inferior teams. They have a lot of games coming up in their schedule against inferior teams that they're going to win. The Jaguars, I can't say the same about. They have losses that shouldn't be losses on their schedule.
We'll see. Now, moving to number 5, I think, do we all have...
It's a consensus, I think.
I think we all have a consensus. The Bengals and the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow are back. Not sure how much we can talk about this that hasn't already been said. I mean, they're just back. This is what the Bengals do. They're sitting at 4th place in their division, but they have to be the happiest 4th place team in the league right now. I think if it wasn't for the Ravens building up such a early lead and the Bengals getting off to such a terrible start, this Bengals team could be contending for the division.
I think
they still could, climb their way up, but Bengals are going to win a lot of games. I think they're going to drop very few down the stretch here. Joe Burrow could be the MVP as far as I'm concerned. I think this race is still open for him. I think he's back in his element. Bengals are back. Great pass rush. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, all their weapons. Not much more to say. They got a win against Buffalo, and I don't think it was ever really in question either.
Yeah, hate to agree, but it's the Bengals. I hate to agree with this even more, but Joe Burrow might be MVP with the way he's playing.
Yeah.
And with the way Lamar hasn't had to do much for his team, but Joe Burrow has been just elite these last few weeks.
Yeah, I think the Bengals offense is actually only getting better. Like, T. Higgins was involved a lot last week, like he wasn't because he was injured and he wasn't before. And they're finally getting the rhythm back. Joe Mixon is getting involved. I think this Bengals offense is only getting better. And they have one of the best secondaries in the league. So I'm pretty confident with the Bengals going at 5. All
right, now moving to the 6th seed. This is going to be fun. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes, me too.
Here's the thing with the Steelers. Their schedule is very nice. I think their schedule is the reason they will be able to get into the playoffs. They play the Packers this week. Their hardest games left on the schedule are divisional games. And the Steelers have always been exceptional. Mike Tomlin's always prepared them for these divisional games. I mean, we were back here in week 5, week 6, talking about the Steelers going to face Baltimore, and Baltimore's nearing the best team in the league, and the Steelers were able to win and beat them. And this team truly brings everyone down to our level, and we're not a good team.
Yes,
the Steelers are the worst team to watch in football, I think.
Because
not only
come on, there are worse teams to watch.
We put out a good product.
Rohan, you'd rather watch the Chicago Bears or the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, because the Bears at least do like some fun, stupid shit, you know.
We give you dramatic television every single
Dude,
week.
we give you a close game
and do something ridiculous. I get to see their defense get torn apart by whoever they're going.
You're
up
saying
against.
TJ Watt isn't fun to watch? Whenever
TJ Watt's fun,
gets his helmet torn off and he still
Rohan,
sacks
one thing I'll tell you, we'll keep every game so close. You will be sitting in your chair like shaking until the fourth quarter ends.
Maybe,
That's how every game is. That is a great game of football.
I'll say the last 5 minutes of your games, that's elite television.
It is.
But the point leading up to
it
is
that's the
awful.
point.
I swear to God, the Steelers games probably have the most 3-and-outs out of anyone in the league. Steelers games must have the most 3-and-outs per game because both teams, their offenses just like become incapable of functioning. But okay, Shree, who's your 6? I forget who yours is. I can't see on the.
So I mean, I have the Steelers at 6.
Okay. I'm not even mad at your pick, honestly. I can't be mad at it at this point because the Steelers are not a good football team, as you guys. At least you guys have admitted it. But
I mean, they're not good, but we also win, so I don't really know what it is.
I mean, we'll take it.
Yeah,
through some dark magic, you guys are.
It's called Mike Tomlin. Yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah,
it's called Matt Canada on the sidelines.
Matt Canada on the sidelines is elite. But unfortunately, my 6 is going to be the Browns. The Browns are another one of those teams that I think takes care of business. And down the stretch, that's going to come up big for them. I think the Steelers game that's coming up in 2 weeks is going to be critical for that. I think that could be a game that we look back at as deciding who makes the playoff and who doesn't. But I mean, this Browns team, they got the Broncos, they get the Rams, they get the Bears, they get the Texans, they get the Jets. Maybe not the Texans, but a lot of those I think are gimme games, especially for a defense as elite as this. Whereas the Steelers, because of their tendency to make every single game close, every single game is losable, but every single game is also winnable.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you take that. I really don't know how you take that. But I count the Browns to be a little bit safer of a pick here, so I'll pick the Browns at 6. 7 seed. I'll round off my pick. This team made none of your guys' list, which I find a little bit concerning.
Is it? I don't know.
I actually think your pick for this 7 is quite concerning, Rohan.
Yeah.
You think okay? So I've picked the Chargers at the 7 seed, which I don't think is crazy.
Yeah.
They're sitting at 4-4 right now. Their upcoming schedule, they got
it's pretty competitive.
Okay, this is a good schedule. I mean, the Lions next week is rough, but then they got the Packers, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Broncos again, and they got the Bills.
Look, never underestimate a Brandon Staley team to underachieve. That's all I'm going to say.
That's true. That's true. But I will say, I mean, this Chargers team has looked very good these past 2 weeks. Granted, against bad opponents. But, I mean, this is what you look for, right? You look for these teams to take care of business. I think the Chargers can do that. I think they win another 5-6 games to close out the year, and they sneak into the last spot, especially because none of these other teams really stand out to me. I'll pass it off to Arjun here because this is a pick that I would love to make, but I simply cannot make it with the way this team is playing right now.
So my 7 seed was really hard to choose. I was between, not the Chargers actually, I was between the Texans, who I think are going to be hot the rest of the season and are going to play spoiler to a lot of good teams. The Browns, who you talked about, I just don't trust Deshaun Watson in big games. And I think he's going to crumple against good defenses, as we're going to see this weekend. And lastly, we have the Buffalo Bills, who we've talked about a lot this season, who have suffered a lot of injuries. But I just trust in this league, quarterback is one of the most important, obviously the most important position, but also most important position for wins in non-Steeler related games. So I'm going to take the best quarterback out of the lot, out of the Chargers, out of the Texans, out of the Browns. Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. He's made some mistakes. I don't think this year is entirely on him. I think the defensive injuries are going to hurt. But I expect them to win. I mean, they have a gauntlet coming up, and they already started that.
Read the schedule out.
So they get the Broncos and the Jets the next couple weeks. Obviously, the Jets have kind of had their number over the past year or so.
I think they win that
but
one.
I think they'll win.
Say, yeah.
I think they win against the Broncos. I think this is a great tune-up game.
But the last 6 games on their schedule, I think 5 losses are there.
They're not going to lose all of these. They play the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, which they'll win, and the Dolphins. They can beat the Patriots. They can beat the Dolphins, because they've always had the Dolphins number, and I think they can beat them. I think they can win against any one of the Eagles, Chiefs, or Cowboys. Out of all those, I would choose the Cowboys. I don't think they're near the same realm as these teams anymore. Look, the Cowboys are very good.
The Bills have fallen. The Bills have fallen.
They're not going to lose 3 straight. I just refuse to believe that Josh Allen team with Stephon Diggs, with Sean McDermott,
I will never
is going to drop 3 straight to 3 contending
This
teams.
defense is bad. This is a bad defense. This is not a good defense by any means. Their secondary is bad. I mean, Joe Burrow. Granted, it's Joe Burrow and it's the Bengals' weapons, but Joe Burrow diced them up. Mac Jones diced them up. I mean, this is a bad secondary. I think any team that can pass the ball for what it's worth is going to have their way with them.
Yeah, I mean, wait, sure, you want to go ahead?
Arjun, did Camille pay you before you came on this podcast?
No, he did not. He
must
did not.
have.
He did not
must
pay
have.
me.
Listen, I love the Bills.
Maybe I'm spending too much time with him listening.
You are.
Wax
You are.
poetic about the
No,
Bills.
you are because listen,
I think you've been paid
I said this
off.
at the beginning of the year, they're not going to make the playoffs. Camille convinced me otherwise, and he was wrong. I hate to say it because I like the Bills, I like Diggs, I like Allen, but he was wrong. Injuries played a large part, I will say. But this is not a team that's competitive anymore against elite teams, quite frankly.
I just think, look, we've seen this team. Last year, we saw this team sputter a little bit down the stretch. They put it together. They got into the playoffs. I can't imagine that this team is just going to completely fall.
Josh Allen isn't Patrick Mahomes. We can't just say, like, oh, he does this. And
he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Joe Burrow. But I think he's at the top of that next year. And I think, look, there's a moment for Josh Allen. It's this one to really prove it.
But he doesn't have the defense to back him up. I don't know. I would be pleasantly surprised if the Bills sneak in. I just don't see how it happens, especially with this schedule. I think they're a top 7 team in the AFC, but the schedule is not doing them any services.
Shuri, you're 7?
I got the Browns. I think they have a pretty easy schedule and a great defense with room for improvement on the offense and divisional games. Like I've seen the Browns be competitive, and I just think like because of their record already, like they're still a solid. I think they're like a game ahead of the Chargers and like other contending teams. So I have the whole AFC North going into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's how it's currently standing. That would be an absolute dogfight. I'm looking. If that's the case, I just really hope the Steelers draw the Ravens because I don't think I would ever be more hyped for a game than that.
Okay.
All right, so that's it for our AFC predictions. Next week, we will do our NFC playoff predictions. We'll see if Week 10 changes any of that. Don't really expect it to, but, I mean, crazy things can happen in this league. Make sure to check out our Instagram for all our picks, power rankings, and episodes like this. It's going to be a fun Week 10. We'll see if these AFC playoff predictions come true. Judging based on our previous record, I do not expect them to, so it probably means like the Texans are going to make the playoffs. But
CJ Stroud, dark horse MVP.
CJ, I'm so here for it.
He might be. And if he goes to the playoffs, he could be.
On the subject of apologies, I need to apologize to CJ Stroud. He proved me wrong. I was ragging on him in draft season. I thought he was going to drop to like 11. And
we thought a Wonderlic or an IQ test or whatever mattered.
S2.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it does not. Doesn't. He's him. He's clearly the best quarterback in this class. But my name is Arjun Ryan.
I'm Shriba Mkanda.
And I'm Rohan Patel.
And we'll see you next week on the turf.